Hi, good afternoon, everyone. This is Rajiv S. Khanna from immigration.com, the law offices of Rajiv S. Khanna PC. This is our bi weekly telephone call, a community conference which is offered as a service, not a substitute for a one on one consultation, does not establish attorney client relationship, as you would have known when you logged in. Our announcement tells you. We'll go over the posted questions. Out of them, the ones that have been marked frequently asked questions I'll answer first, and then we'll take on the regular questions. If time permits, we'll do new questions. I probably won't have time for new questions today unless you are one of those gentlemen who was, I think, either talking to me on Twitter or Facebook. I'm not sure, one of the social media. And I had told you you might as well just call into the conference. You are the only one whose call I'll take in addition to that posted questions. Okay, that said, let's get started on our posted questions. The first frequently asked question is, there are a bunch of questions in here from Mohan 1983. He begins by saying, I have an H-1B I-140 approved for role of developer. I want to change role to business analyst with a new client. Both require same educational background, but the responsibilities will differ between the two, a lot between the two. What is the procedure? Well, first of all, when you just want to carry forward the priority date, which is what you are doing. See, if you are doing AC-21 for your entire green card, which means you are porting the green card over, you need a same or similar job. But when you are just porting the priority date, the jobs can be completely different. We don't care. So the first issue to remember is if you are just carrying forward your priority date, you can have totally different job profiles. We don't care about that. What is the procedure to go about the change? There is no procedure. What you will do is when you do an H1 for the new job, you'll just give the new job description. And since they both require similar education qualifications, that's the only thing that you would do. It doesn't require any special filings with the government. Will it impact my H1B? Yes, because you'll be doing a new H1B. Does it impact your I-140? The answer is no, not your priority date. Whether or not it impacts your I-140 depends upon your old employer. If they want to revoke your I-140, it has no relationship with your job description. But if they want to revoke the I-140, they can. That will take away your right to get H1 extensions based upon the I-140, but it will not take away your priority date. That's the current thinking of USCIS. Is birth certificate mandatory while 485, while filing 485? Well, eventually you have to have a birth certificate or evidence that you cannot get birth certificate, and then you can start adducing secondary evidence. Typically, you get a non-availability certificate or a letter from the municipal corporation of the city where you were born stating that they don't have any record of your birth, and then you attach two affidavits from either your parents or some other members of your family stating what your date of birth is. How soon should we file for I-485 once the dates become current? So the way this works is the visa bulletin from the State Department announces the dates for the following month. So the September visa bulletin, which comes out, let's say around 13th or 14th of September, will tell you the dates that would be current beginning October 1st. So you have all of that month, October 1st through October 31st, October 1st to 31st, when you can file your 485. So 15 days ahead, you know what the next month will unfold. Anybody has any questions on this, press star 5. No new questions, follow-up questions on what I discussed, press star 5 on your phone. Okay, let's go on to the next frequently asked question. Does the CBP officer at the airport have the right to search belongings, cell phone, etc.? And the answer is I believe so. I believe so. Because they have been doing it for decades. I haven't really specifically researched this issue. I am pretty sure they have the right to do so, and you have the right to say no. But if you say no, then they can decline you entry into the United States. So the consequences of saying no to any immigration officer, whether it is USCIS, CBP, ICE, or Department of Labor or State Department, the consequences could be denial of the benefit that you are looking for. So I hope that answers the question. In this case, what happened was this is a company writing to us saying that in Chicago, the employee was asked, despite having an H1 visa, a genuine H1 visa, they looked at the cell phone, laptop, etc., and then they denied entry into the United States. Can they do that? I believe they can. Have I specifically researched the limits on their rights? I have not. There are some interesting constitutional law questions here about unreasonable search and seizure, etc. But those apply to you only when you enter the United States. And even there, if in an administrative non-criminal proceeding, you refuse to produce information or documents or devices that the government wants to see, your benefit can be denied. That's the only problem. Star 5, if you have a follow-up question on this, star 5, folks. Okay, let's go on to the next frequently asked question. Changing jobs while a quota H1 is pending. So Rohmal says, currently working for a reputed company on my 17-month STEM OPT extension, which is good till Jan 2017. My current employer filed for H1. I have the receipt number, but approval is not yet received. So can I switch employers? And the answer is yes, but remember, until that first H1 is approved, you are still subject to H1 quota. So if you change employers and the old employer either withdraws the pending application or neglects to properly file an RFE response and that H1 is denied, you will be subject to the quota. So that is the big problem here. Star 5, if you have a follow-up question on this, please press star 5. I'm keeping track of my Twitter account also. There's a lot of traffic today. You can tweet to me while we are talking if something urgent comes up. Okay, next question is changing jobs after I-140 approval. I combined these two posts, one from RK, one from Rahul, because the questions were pretty similar. So let's go over what happens when I change jobs after I-140 approval. I moved from company A to company B, from L1 to H1 in October 2014. Company B initiated my green card process in June 2014 as a future employment, so before you joined, and I-140 got approved. So in Feb 2015, that was approved, and the priority date is June 2014. I completed 6 years L1 and H1, but got H1B extension good till July 2018 based upon my I-140 approval. That's clear. So now I've got an offer from company C. So he was on with company A on L1, went to company B on H1 and green card, and now he wants to go to company C. If I join company C and file H1B transfer, based on my I-140 approval, will I get 3 years extension? See, that's something USCIS has been inconsistent on. So if you've got still a year and a half or year left on your H1 and you apply for an H1 transfer, will they give you 3 years? They should, and you should ask for 3 years, but they have been inconsistent when the time remaining on your existing H1 is more than 6 months. If it was less than 6 months, definitely they'll give you a 3 year extension. Okay. Second, what happens if my company B revokes my I-140? You keep your priority date. You should also keep your current H1 extension. But future H1 extensions cannot be based upon a withdrawn or revoked I-140. My role and job descriptions are changing. Will it affect my green card dates? I have dealt with that question earlier today. There is no effect on priority date because you are changing job descriptions. Since you're only carrying forward the priority date, if you had 485 pending and you were doing a complete green card port over, you would need a same or similar job. When you are basing your move on the I-140 alone, you are barely carrying forward your priority date. So there, having completely different jobs is not a problem. Fourth was company B, which is the existing company, says that they are going to revoke the I-140 because of ability to pay. Is it true? The answer is yes. We would also advise companies with marginal tax ability to pay to revoke any I-140s that are not actively being used for their employees. What else can I do to make sure? Just make sure that your company C is filing a green card as quickly as possible. Other than that, I don't see what else you can do. I'm just going to check my Twitter notifications. Okay, nothing here. Let's go on to Rahul. Part of the same continuum on the I-140s. I'll open the floor to questions in 1 second. Let me finish Rahul's questions. So he's on H1B beyond 6 years, 3 years extension based upon I-140 approval. I-140 was approved with employer A. I want to move to employer B. Employer A should not be revoking the I-140. And the answer is once you get your H1 extension, it's okay if they revoke. All right, I think I've answered these questions. Guys, don't post links to private websites in your questions or on our website. It just creates a strange issue, liability issue for us. Please don't post. Government links are okay, but don't post private links. I had to delete that link. Can the H1 be transferred from employer A to employer B along with H4 extension and H4 EAD? Yes, of course. If the I-140 is approved with employer X, employer A, B, C, D, E, F, G, anybody can get an H1 extension based upon an approval. And I-140 and the EAD can also be approved for your spouse if there is one I-140 unrevoked. Once it is revoked, your H1, which is already given to you, does not get affected. But USCIS has said they reserve the right to revoke the H4 EAD if the I-140 goes away. The last question Rahul had was, is there any update regarding the I-140 EAD rule? There is no update. It's still in limbo. Folks, what I have discussed about the I-140, if you have any questions on this, press *5. Do not ask any new questions. Okay, *5. 2 people have questions. Let's go in the order that you logged in. Go ahead, please. Wisconsin, go ahead.
Namaste, Rajivji. This is Rahul. I'm one of the questions.
Yes, sir.
So my question is, suppose in the case where I'll talk in terms of employer A and employer B, just like I posted my question. Okay.
Sure.
So suppose employer A does not revoke my I-140, and I guess employer B no files for H1 extension, and for whatever reason, let's say employee B does not want to restart the whole firm and everything again. Now, can this H1 extension, can that be sought every single time as long as I-140 is still, approved and pending? I mean, basically, can we have a situation where the I-140 is with employer A, but the person is actually working with employer B and seeking successive extensions every 3 years, just because the I-140 is pending? Is that like reasonable, or do they have any issues in here?
The law permits you to have any number of extensions through any employer as long as one I-140 remains unrevoked.
Okay. So, because, okay.
All right, let me take my next
And
question.
then,
Yeah. Make it really quick, please. Make it quick, Rahul, if you have any other questions.
no, I think I'm done.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay. Connecticut, go ahead, please. Connecticut.
Yeah, this is from New Jersey. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, my number.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So basically, in the same scenario, like if I'm working in company A on L1 and I have an approved 140, and I had an H1 3 years back, which is now expired. But however, there are some days left in that H1 which can be recaptured. Now, if an employee B, can they apply for a new H1 based on my expired H1 getting recaptured in the days and filing for extension based on approved 140?
You have posted a question, haven't you? I think I saw that question.
Maybe I did. I don't.
Okay. No worries. I think you asked me about the remainder option, didn't you? Maybe somebody else. Maybe somebody else.
Sorry.
It could be somebody else. Because there is something very close to what you asked me. So your question is, I have some time remaining on my H1. Remember, H1 and L1 times are counted together, right?
Correct.
Okay. So you still have, counting all of that, you still have some time left on your H1. Can an employer apply for your H1? Is that your question? Are you currently on H1 or L1?
I'm currently on L1. So basically, I was away from the US for 1 year. So there is a gap also. So previously, I had that H1, right, which got expired.
Okay, hang on. Which years did you have H1? From which year to which year?
This was from 2012 to 2013. I had the H1. Okay, and in 2014, I was in India. Okay, and 2015, I came back here on L1.
You were outside
I
US.
have an approved 140.
You were outside
Yeah, I
US
was outside for 1 year.
for 1 year. Yeah. You should be able to get an H1 for at least, I would say, 4 years under the remainder option, and you should not be subject to the quota. Okay.
Okay. But in, sorry, I gave half details, I think. Last time, 2012 to 13, I was on H1, but the previous years, like I was on L1 for the 5 years. So it was 5 years plus 1 year of H1. So totally 6 years I had completed, and then went back to India for 1 year and then came back.
I'm not
But
sure.
my question is like,
I'm not sure how that.
Yeah, in the-
Hang on. I'm not sure how that would play out, because remainder option assumes that you have some time remaining. If you have some time remaining, you get that back. The problem here is.
So I
Let
was
me
on the
finish.
month or so of vacation time that I had
Would
the
you
H1.
would you let me finish, please?
Sorry. Yeah.
Bear with me, because I have a lot of people waiting on the phone. I want to get everybody's questions answered if I can. So bear with me and work with me, because it's important to understand what I do know and what I don't know. I don't know if you are going to have the remainder option, because you have exhausted a considerable part of your H1 while working on L1B. What your lawyers will need to do is they'll need to figure out how much time do you have remaining counting together the L1B and H1 and look at the best case and the worst case scenario. The best case scenario would be that you can argue that remainder option gives me my H1 and L1 shouldn't be counted towards remainder option. I think it's an unclear area of the law. The worst case scenario is government would combine the two, subtract your vacation time and give you the remainder on the H1. So best case scenario, you get about 5 years or 4 or 5 years of H1. Worst case scenario, you get 6 years minus L1B plus H1 minus vacation time. Make sense?
Yes, yes, perfectly. But in any case, then I will not come under the cap, right?
That's what I would argue, and I don't think you would. Only the question is only how much time you get. The question is not whether you are subject to the
Got it.
cap. You are not subject to the cap. It's the only question is how much time can we get for you. Okay.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah.
Good
That
luck.
answers. Thank you so
Oh,
much,
you're welcome.
Rajiv.
You're welcome. Okay. Let's go on to the next frequently asked question. Applying for re-entry permit. And I think you just logged in. I recognize your name. This is about your parents from China. So parents' green card was approved in 2014. They went to visit China about 11 months ago. A lot of health issues, surgeries, hospitalization. They are coming back before 1 year. Now they can give them a hard time at the airport, Leah. But the thing is, since they have a good reason why they were absent for so long, have them carry the hospital records. And if they are in Chinese, have them translated. When I say Chinese, I don't know which language. I'm not, I know Chinese is not a language, whether it's Mandarin or whatever language they are in. Have it translated so that you can show the government why they were out for so long. I remember one thing. If you have a green card and you're able to board the flight, USCIS, actually CBP, has to let you in. They can't turn you away at the airport because you have a green card, but they can make you, they can lift your green card and have you appear before an immigration judge if they want to take away your green card. But you don't have to worry about them being turned away at the airport. And you should apply for their re-entry permit. You can apply as soon as you can. But just remember one thing, for a re-entry permit, have a detailed consultation with a lawyer, what is the right way to file it, but it should be filed as soon as you want to. I think it'll be a good idea when they come in to talk with a lawyer, examine the details of what is the best way to file the re-entry permit. It can get a little tricky. So I think they're going to be able to make it in okay, make sure they carry the medical records, and they should apply for re-entry permit. Any questions on this? Press *5, please. Any questions on this? Press *5 on your phone. Okay. All right, I'll go on to the next frequently asked question. So this is an issue that also comes up quite often. Ron says, can my brother's company, a company my brother owns, can they file my perm? And the answer is yes, but it has to be carefully done. Your brother should not be involved in any of the major decisions or recruitment efforts. It can be done, and the delay happens usually if Department of Labor wants you to undertake supervised recruitment. So what they'll do is your company will do the recruitment, they'll file the perm will probably go into audit, and the government might issue either an audit or directly a direction that the company has to do supervised recruitment, which means they will scrutinize all the applicants and make sure that you are interviewing, or the company is interviewing everybody. So it can be done. Gets complicated, not impossible. Star 5 if you have a question on this. Star 5. Okay. Let's go to Minnesota. Go ahead, please. Minnesota.
Yeah, so the scrutiny will happen prior to I-40 approval or after that?
Prior to I-140 approval, while the perm is still going on.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Good luck. Let's go on to the next frequently asked question. Can I file a green card while I'm on F1? Yes, you can. But keep in mind a couple of things. If you are filing a green card through perm, while the perm is going on, it is not considered to be an immigrant visa. But the moment you come to the I-140 stage, it is an immigrant visa. And people who are from countries that are not backed up, that's an easy thing to do. You file I-140, 485 together, nothing happens, your F1 is not in trouble. The problem with F1 is it is not a dual intent visa. If you file an F1, or if you're on F1, it means you have indicated to the government you don't want to apply for a green card. So the consequences are not clear, but it is usually not a good idea to file a green card while on F1 unless you are current, your dates are current. Otherwise, it can get tricky. So in theory, at least, you can file a green card. In fact, I'm doing a couple of them right now from countries that are not backed up. EB2 from countries that are not backed up. And if I can, you can, at the onset of I-140 approval, can the company file for an H1? And the answer is sure. Sure you can. So let me look at your entire situation, Abhishek. 33-year-old male, came to USA in 2001, did my undergrad in USA for 5 years, did CPT, spent 6 years working on H1B. In 2013, you did 6 years of H1B. You didn't do your green card. You spent less than 7 months in India before returning to USA on F1. So that means you have no time on your H1. But if you have I-140 approved, then you should be able to get your H1. And I think you should not be subject to the quota because, oh no, you will be. Oh, you won't be. Because your H1 was approved from 2007 to 2013, within the last 6 years. So it's an interesting situation. I don't think you'll be subject to the quota. And once I-140 is approved, you should be able to get 3 years of H1. Star 5, if you have a follow-up question. Star 5. New York, go ahead, please, New York.
Rajiv, this is Axel. It wasn't very clear. Were you answering my question about the I-140 extension, given that my H1 have not been on H1 for the last 6 years?
This is Abhishek Verma. Is that you?
No, sorry. I'll please unmute me.
Oh, no, that's okay. Is it related question? What was your question?
Sir,
I was on H1 from 2006 to 2009.
Okay.
And then moved back to India, and I've come back on an L1 in 2016.
Right.
So I have not been on an H1 for the last 6 years.
However,
I have an I-140 which is already approved.
Okay.
My question is, can I use my previous H1, given that I have an approved I-140, and move from L1 to an H1?
Let's look at this for a second. I'm only looking at the quota angle. When was your H1 approved? From which year to which year?
2006. It was approved for 3 years.
So 2009.
And I was
2009. Yeah. That means it's more than 6 years, even from the 2009. I think you are subject to the quota. You can get your H1 extensions based upon the I-140, but as far as I know, the quota is a separate issue. See, laws can be very complicated. I won't say that this is the ultimate answer without researching this in detail, reviewing various memoranda, regulations, etc. But my guess is, my educated guess is, you are subject to the H1 quota. Okay?
Okay. Okay, sir.
Good luck.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
No problem. Good luck. Okay, folks, I'm done with the frequently asked questions. Let's get started with the non-frequently asked questions. Let me check my tweets. Nothing regarding to this, regarding our discussion. Okay, first non-frequently asked question. This is from Nick H1B. I have H1 visa stamping till April 2017. So the question is, if I have more than 6 months remaining on my current H1, can I still get visa stamping done? So I have my visa stamping good for the next 7-8 months. I believe consulates will not issue a new visa until it's either 4 months or 6 months. Less than that is remaining on your current visa. So if your visa is good for the next 6 months or 4 months, they won't give you a new visa. Figure out that time. You can actually email them. That is my understanding. I could be wrong about this, but I think it's either 4 or 6 months. *5 if you have a follow-up question on this. *5. Okay, here we go. New Jersey, go ahead please, New Jersey.
Namaste, Sarji. So actually, my visa is valid till March 2017,
Right.
and my current extension is good for 3 years. I already got the extension for
Yeah,
3
I
years.
understand that. I understand that. I've read your question. The answer is, if you have visa remaining for more than 4 months or 6 months, it's one of the two. They will not usually issue you a new visa, even though you have an extension.
Correct. So I have a plan to go in December, so that will short 3 months.
January, February, March. I think they'll stamp it. Yeah.
I can just use the Dropbox and just stamp it out.
I don't know if you qualify for Dropbox. Review the regulations or review the rules. But as far as visa stamping is concerned, if you have less than 4 months, I'm quite sure they'll stamp it.
Okay. I mean, yeah. Thanks a lot. I already reviewed the rules for the Dropbox. So
Yeah, they're different rules.
Thanks for the-
We're talking two different sets of things. Dropbox is merely the procedure to waive interview, but to get to visa stamping, you have to qualify first. So if you have more than 4 months or 6 months remaining, they may not even get you to Dropbox at all. Okay.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
So I mean, the summary is that I'm able to get it.
I think so. I think so. You can
Okay, thanks.
you can actually email the consulate to just to confirm.
Okay. That is wonderful. That is wonderful. Thanks a
Good
lot.
luck, sir. Okay. Let's go to the next non-frequently asked question. So you've got Ravi Shankar had an issue. He was a student and there was a kidney stone, and now they are telling about some insurance problem. They are saying you have a bill of what, $11,000. So look, this is not really an immigration related issue. This is an issue that you should be discussing with a state lawyer in the state where all this happened. You should contact a state-based lawyer. And typically, if the bill is appropriate, then your lawyer can work out some payment terms like $100 a month or $50 a month, something like that. So they can get some reduction and payment terms. I think you should talk with a lawyer in the state where you were admitted in the hospital. *5 if you have a follow-up question. *5. Okay. Ranju is a BSN, 2 years of nursing experience, but she's doing one of the universities in US doing Masters of Information Technology in Healthcare Informatics. Great field. And also I'm on CPT. I've passed my NCLEX 2 months ago. I'm currently registered with Illinois and Maryland. With the RN license, is that possible for me to work as a nurse with the current CPT? No. Well, unless your degree is in healthcare informatics. If you're doing patient care, that's not really related to your degree. And your CPT, unless there is a CPT course that requires some kind of nursing experience. It's up to the school. They have to determine whether the CPT job is related to your degree. I don't think it would be. How to get green card with my present situation? Well, Ranju, the thing is, remember, green card is a job in the future. So if you qualify for a green card and an employer wants to start a green card while you're doing other things, they can. And you can have a green card going through the nursing category, another green card going through the technology category. That is perfectly okay. As long as it is your good faith intention to join either or both of these jobs as your green card permits, you can file different green cards. Star 5 if you have a follow-up question. Star 5, okay? Anand Joshi's parents entered USA 15th August on a tourist visa. They are good till Feb 2017, but they are returning in November. So when they come back, do they risk being granted an I-94 just till 15th Feb? No. Typically, if you have 3 months remaining, the CBP should give you the 3 months original remaining, or they might give you a fresh 6 months. It's really their discretion. Okay. Star 5 if you have a follow-up question. So chances of them being abbreviated down to February are small, very small. So Deepti's question is, she was working for company A on OPT. Let me just check my tweets for a second. Just trying to make sure that nobody has posted. Okay. Company A on OPT, H1B approved, job title programmer analyst. I started working for an end client, which is a university. Then you changed your employer's end client, remained the same. So now, if I want to file an EB2 through the end client, their lawyers are saying you can't use the experience that you gained while working as a contractor for the end client. The answer is that their understanding is correct. Because you were working for that end client, you usually cannot use experience gained as a programmer analyst. But if the university were to offer you a future job as a senior programmer analyst or a project manager or a software architect, where the job is more than 50% different from what you did for them as a programmer analyst, you can then file with experience gained while working as a contractor. That is the only thing you can do. Star 5 if you have a question. Star 5. Okay. There you are. Let's see. Go ahead. If you have a follow-up question, go ahead, please. Jersey City.
Hi, Rajiv.
Hi, Rajiv.
Hello, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Deepti.
I'm the person who has posted that question.
Right.
So for now,
I mean, the job description is completely different. What they're offering me is a different title.
So if I have to repost it again and put the master's as mandatory, then that would work for the firm?
Oh, hang on one second. Couple of things you got to be careful with. The papers for green card are filed by the employer under penalty of perjury. They have to act honestly in good faith. They cannot make things up. If a master's degree is not a requirement, they must not put it. I think the better solution is to have a future job which is more than 50% different.
Like a senior developer.
Like a senior developer. And remember, the job can be a lateral move too. For example, you could go from being a database administrator to a developer. Now that's a very different job. That's okay. Or it can be vertically different. You go from being a programmer analyst to a senior programmer analyst or a software architect.
Okay.
What if they change the job description or the job title? Like
that's what we just discussed.
Probably that.
That's what we just discussed. If the job is more than 50% different, how would it be more than 50% different? Different job title, different job description.
Okay, got it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Good luck. Sunil Kaushik. Ah, this is an issue. So the question is, if I want to file an EB1C as an international manager or executive, I have to have 1 year experience outside USA in the 3 years immediately preceding the application for EB1C. So if I'm filing for my green card today, in the last 3 years, there must be 1 year of experience working as a manager or executive for a branch, parent, affiliate of this company outside USA. But there is an exception. If you enter USA working for this company or a same group of companies, then that 3 year period is calculated back from the date you entered USA. So you enter USA today, you work here for 5 years for the same group of companies. If you want to file a green card, we won't look at the last 3 years from today. We look at the last 3 years from the date you entered USA. I hope that helps. Star 5 if you have a question. You have probably a voice over IP. I can't see your state. Go ahead. How can I help you?
Yeah, I'm based from Florida, Rajiv. Thanks. So that is the third part of my question. So now, because I entered on L1B and I converted to L1A to get the L1A, I went to Canada for a week and got the visa and came
No
back.
problem.
So now,
No problem.
start date is the L1B start date or the L1A
See,
start date? When would you calculate those 3
Don't
years?
worry about L1B, L1A. Ignore that as a non-essential. Only thing I want to know is when you first entered USA, which is April 2014, did you have
Yes.
in the last 3 years before 2014 1 year of managerial experience? That's the only relevant question.
Yes, I've had it for 2 years.
But that's all you need. You can file your green card.
Okay. Yeah, my main question was only on the 3 year.
Yeah, you're good.
And L1B and L1A because the non-immigrant status change in L1A or is it still calculated back from 2014?
From the date you entered.
Okay.
Good luck.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Bye-bye. Okay, let's go on to the next question. Let me just check my tweets again. You know, I can't wait for the elections to be over. I can go back to being a lawyer. Unfortunately, these elections have been so controversial. I have to take a stand because I feel that there is one candidate who's absolutely unacceptable. So all people who are citizens of good conscience must take a stand. So all I've been tweeting about is the unqualified candidate, in my opinion. And I haven't had really any time to share with you the latest developments. There hasn't been much going on anyway, but whatever latest developments there are in immigration law, they have kind of taken a backseat. Can't wait till November 8th. Then we can go back and start being lawyers again. Somen Ghosh says, H1B amendment is filed pending. I want to visit. Yeah, you can. You see, when an amendment or an extension or a transfer is pending, and you have currently a visa stamp on your passport, you can use that to travel outside and come back. It's usually not a problem. Star 5 if you have a question. Star 5. Okay. But do discuss it with your lawyers to make sure there's no status issues in between there lurking somewhere in your background. But that's usually not a problem. Ravi Kumar has an issue about political asylum, and I posted a response. We don't do political asylums. I have no idea how that works. Next question is Santosh Nayak, H4EAD. My H1B is expiring November 2016, next month. Extensions are filed H1 and H4. I-140 is approved. I'm thinking of filing H4 EAD on October 24th, the day she reaches USA. So she's going outside, coming back. Sure. You can. See, a valid visa is not required to file or for an indefinite extension You don't have to have 300 days on the visa remaining to file an H4EAD. You can file it even with 10 days remaining of the status, not the visa, because when she lands at the airport, shows the visa, they'll give her the status. And usually the status should be coextensive with the H1. I don't know how they will work that out, but even if they give her 10 days, you can file an H4EAD, H4 extension, EAD, no problem. I think then you have some other questions that look like the same questions. Will there be any issues when she travels back on October 24th? Because visa is good till November. I don't see any problem. I think it's the same set of questions. If you are on the phone, Santosh ji, press *5. If you have a follow-up question, press *5. Okay, here we go. This is New Jersey. Go ahead, New Jersey.
Rajuji Santosh here. What I want to know is when your extension is filed, H4 extension, the person cannot travel outside the country. And if
Hang on.
H4 extension gets...
That is not true. That is not true. If an extension is filed and the person has a visa stamp which is still good when they re-enter, you can travel. You can travel. Government,
after
government said we don't like people to travel after filing EAD, but they haven't forbidden it under these circumstances.
No, but if she travels back to US and we have only 10 days valid visa, so we'll have to file a new H4 extension in this case?
If you have an H4 extension already pending, no.
Okay.
So that
doesn't get wide, you mean
No,
to say?
even
If we travel outside.
no problem. That's fine. You should go to my blog, and where we have the H4EAD rule, we have all these questions covered actually.
Okay.
Okay?
I meant
H4 extension, not H4EAD extension.
I meant both those things. If you have an H4 extension pending, the person travels, re-enters with just 10 days remaining on their visa, their extension still goes on, there is no problem. Okay?
Okay. Thank
Good
you.
luck. Okay. Then, Aksal. This is the gentleman who had called in. We discussed his issue. So we are done with that. H. Patel says, my cousin went back to India permanently in 2013 while waiting for green card on EB3. Can they apply a visitor visa? I think so. The way I look at it, Mr. Patel or Miss Patel, if somebody has given up their green card, isn't it good evidence that they don't want to live in USA? And isn't that what the government wants to see in a tourist visa? So I think, of course, ultimately it is the call of the consular officer. But I think that's a good chance. Give me 1 second. Let me look at my tweets. Okay. So there's a good chance that we are going to get a tourist visa under these circumstances. Once a green card is received, how soon can I change the employer? Go look at the frequently asked questions. On our website, immigration.com, right on the top, very top, you have the frequently asked questions. Click on that and review how soon can I leave. I have a very detailed discussion on it. Next question. If the EAD expires, can I continue working? No, you cannot. Driver's license, also, there are no options. That's a state law issue. I can't comment on that. But in between EADs, you can't work. When I-140 approved is requested using Form G639, does it include, you mean Freedom of Information Act request? I think sometimes they give you the entire package, including a copy of the PERM application. So I haven't had personal experience with this for a while. Other people in the office take care of those things. But I believe they also give you a copy of the perm, which contains your detailed job description. Star 5 if you have a question. Star 5. Okay, here we go. Folks, just to make you aware, I will not have time for new questions today, except for that one gentleman who was communicating with me on social media. I don't know if it was Twitter or Facebook. I don't think it was Google Plus. It was Twitter or Facebook. You were talking to me. If you are here, I will take your question at the end. But no new questions. I don't have time for that today. Okay, go ahead. You had a question. Go ahead, please. This is New York. New York, go ahead, please. New York.
Hello, Raju.
Hello, Raju.
Yes, sir, I can hear you.
If you request for a copy of your firm and the I-140 from the government, does your employer get to know that you have requested?
No.
Okay. And is there any way to know that the I-140 has been revoked?
No.
Or not?
No. Unfortunately, there is no definitive way because you are just, this is a problem in the paperwork. I think you are a very necessary party. You should be informed. But no, other than through your lawyer, through the employer, or if it shows up on the USCIS website that your I-140 has been revoked, there is no definitive way to find out. No.
Okay, so if the website says your I-140 was approved on so-and-so date, one can assume that it has not yet been revoked.
No, one cannot assume that because they are very poor about updating.
Okay.
So just one more question. So if we ask the USCIS to send the perm copy and the I-140, if they're able to send, is that an assumption that it has not been revoked?
No.
Okay.
Unfortunately, that is the problem. Okay.
Okay.
If you have a Virginia lawyer like us, we are required by law to let you know by the local rules. Our bar will make us tell you. If you ask us, not only will it make us tell you, if we have represented both sides, you can have a copy of your papers. So depends upon the state. Normally lawyers may be required by state law to tell you. So you can take a look at the rules of ethics of the lawyer's state who represented you. It might be required under state law.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank
You're
you.
welcome. Good luck. Okay, now this is Samir says my sibling had filed for I-130 after she became a US citizen. Then I got married to a US citizen. Now I have a conditional green card. I recently lost my job. I had used government-sponsored Medicaid for her delivery, and I have a baby born here. I have the following questions for you. Do I need to inform the government agency to abandon or cancel my previous I-130? No, I don't see why. I would let that go. It's not illegal. Plus, it is her filing, not yours. Can I use Women, Infant, and Children program for my wife and baby? I don't know. The prohibition is from using means-tested benefits, which means money is given to you based upon how much money you make. So for a certain quarters of work in the United States, I think it's 60 quarters, or until you become a citizen, you're not yet a citizen, right? Yeah, you're a conditional green card holder. You cannot take means-tested benefits for yourself. But if your wife is a US citizen, she can take them. If you use the benefits, you could have a problem. It makes you, I don't know if it makes you deportable. It might make you deportable if the sponsor doesn't pay it back. It's a little complicated. I can't answer this question without looking at the law at some length. What I would recommend to you is talk with a lawyer locally who does family-based immigration in the state where you are, because they might know the programs that you are talking about, state-based programs, and they can research the law for you. This is not something I can answer with just a snap of a finger. I don't know off the top of my head all the issues. but you cannot take means tested benefits. Star 5 if you have a follow-up question. Star 5. Okay, let's go on to the last one or two questions. This is EB1 process. I'm a postdoctoral fellow, so EB1A or EB1B, I guess, doing DNA damage investigation, repair of environmental carcinogens in human cells. I have been invited to chair specific sections or two separate international conferences in Europe and China. That looks good. That looks good directly as well as indirectly for your EB1 application. Directly because it could go into the idea of peer review. If you are involved in reviewing what gets presented before your peers, it becomes relevant to that. Indirectly, it also helps in what is called matter of Kazarian analysis, where we want to see what your overall standing is. So not only do we want to see you qualify under EB1A, EB1B, we also want to see what your overall standing is. So it helps in both ways. Paritosh, if you have a follow-up question, star 5, please. Star 5. Okay, and this is from Kumar, and Deepa had, one of our editorial board members had posted this for him. I have a medical issue and I have to go to India on H1B for medical treatment. What should I do before I leave USA? Nothing. There's nothing you need to do. Your H1B status stays alive as long as two things exist. As long as H1B is still valid and the job that sponsors the H1 is still open for you. For visa stamping, you will need to take a letter from the employer that says that job is still open. Consulate can question it, who's been doing that job while you were gone. So if the company is a big company or other people were sharing that job or they hired somebody temporarily, that might become an issue, but may not. I don't know anything about income tax or health insurance side. I can only comment about immigration law, Kumar. If you are here, press star 5. If you are here, you have follow-up questions, press star 5. Feel free to post again if this is not clear. I'll be happy to respond to you. All right, folks, we have about 4 minutes. I don't want to take any new questions. We may not have enough time, but please post your questions. It will make it easier. As always, thank you for this opportunity to speak with you and discuss your issues with you. I'll see you again in 2 weeks. Bye-bye. Every other Thursday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we host free community conference calls. Everybody is welcome to join. Some people post questions ahead of time. You can take membership in our forums. All of the details are there on our website, immigration.com. You can take membership ahead of time, and it's instantaneous. It happens right away. And post your questions beforehand, or you can just log in. The phone number and all are provided: 202-800-8394, 12:30 Eastern Standard Time every other Thursday. We have free apps for both Apple iOS platform for your iPhones and iPads, as well as for Android. Just look for immigration.com, the period dot, and the application should show up.